Okay, before we get into the actual painting of the lessons, what I want to do is I want to talk to you just a little bit about the design. Now, this design, foundation of design that we're going to carry on through all of the books, okay? So what we're going to do, basically, all of the flower shapes that we're going to paint into the Paint and Simply program are bases of circles. Now, these circles can become ovals and everything depending on how a flower sits. What we're going to do is we're going to do two types of design philosophy, or type of design philosophy, formal to informal. Formal, let's say if we're going to draw a little flower. Formal arrangement, the flowers will come together where they're just touching each other. So if I'm making this into little blossoms here, like this, I'd have a center, and the centers that we put on here, of course, will depend upon the type of flowers, but usually, you're going, if you had a dot here to a dot here, you're going to divide up at least 3 times. So here's 1, 2, and 3. So the center here would be about a third of the way out. So there's one part, then there's 2, and then there's 3 out here. That's about otherwise your centers can get too large or they can get too small. So always think of a third. Usually if I want to get something really balanced, I always think a third, a third, a third. A third base coat, a third highlight, a third shadow. Third is a good place to start out, especially if you're beginning, okay? And then we're going to put these petals on the flowers here as they go around. How many petals go out here? It doesn't make a difference. Sometimes one can be just real skinny to get in there. But you're just going to come around filling up these things to the outside here. And as many petals as it takes to go around to the outside. Now, when you put these on, these are little ovals and stuff. And you'll have patterns to look at and patterns to put on. You can do that. But eventually what I want you to do is be able to put these flowers on, stroke these flowers on, without any kind of pattern. That's our goal, okay? When you're first starting, yeah, okay, you can use the pattern. But don't become pattern dependent. I want you to think we have a circle. And it doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect. So this is what we would consider, when we put these together like this, formal design. When I take the 3 circles and I separate them a bit here, they are do what we call informal design. So here comes my center, here, here, and here. And it becomes informal design. And informal designs make the flowers look a lot lighter and airier. So here they're not touching. And you can see I get a more wispy looking arrangement to the flowers if they're not touching each other, more flyaway. And because we have what we call negative space in between here and here. Now sometimes we close up that space with leaves and everything, which you'll see on patterns and everything, but and leaves are little ovals. So leaves are going to be oval shapes, flowers are going to be circle shapes with the center about a third of the way. If this is 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, about a third of the way out. So there's 1, 2, and 3, okay? So that's basic flowers. Now, and then whether you put them in together in groups or whether you put them together close together, that is all going to depend. And you can change. There's good design where, let's say I had a large board or something like that. In good design, you put on what we call the wavy S. So if you put your flowers on here like this in an S kind of shape, the eye will move through that way. And it's a kind of a pleasing design, and you can fill in the design with leaves and stuff like that, and you have yourself a nice design. There's a lot of lessons that I give in design, and those of you that don't know about it, Decorative Videos has an entire design series on there. It's 18 or so discs that you can watch on design, and so you can go to that website and watch everything that you want to design for a very reasonable price. But anyway, we have formal to informal, we have circles, and we have leaves. Now, the flower, though, if I draw a flower here just basically like this and bring the center in about a third of the way, which is what we're looking at, and then I put my petals on, this flower is sitting flat and looking at you this way. It's coming at you flat, okay, which is fine. Now, if I want this flower to turn, the circle becomes more of an oval. And if I oval this way, and this time when I oval the center, you need to oval that center also. Okay, so that center ovals. And then I draw my petals within that oval here. The flower turns, and here you see the flower turns sideways. Don't draw these things large just because you have them. The flower turns, okay? And then you drop the stem in there, and you can drop a few leaves in here on in that way. And so now I've turned the flower. So I've taken this round shape. So if I have any kind of round shape and I turn it like this, you'll see that round shape becomes an oval. Do you see that? Okay, so it goes from a circle, that round shape becomes more of an oval this way, and that's what's causing that flower to change here. Now what is most important is that this center does occupy it. So where the center here sits on top all the way around, the center here, these petals need to come in like they're coming to the center here, to this point here. Here they could all start to come in like this and like this and like this, but here we need to see them slightly different. So you want to stop right at that line, stop, so that flower turns. Okay. Now, as we continue on drawing, or we can really change a flower by really changing the oval here, okay? And then I can change so if I just did a flat one here, this flower would be very much turned this way, and you can see the longer petals that way. So that one is really turning this way. I can also change the way in which a flower here looks, the petals look, by how I stroke it. Let's say that I am going to put on an oval. Here is my center. Okay. Now, if I pull these petals, down, or pull these petals down and arch them down so that everything curves down, it's looking like it's pulling down. I can make them look like they curve up here by going slightly higher on this side here. And so the angle at which you pull these things can make them look curved down or curved up. So what you're going to see in a lot of the lessons is the brush, the angle of the brush. And as I go paint some of these flowers for you, I want you to always watch the angle of the brush, because the angle of the brush is what's going to dictate where those petals, or how those petals are flowing down, or whether they're curving up or coming down or coming right at you to chisel. A lot of times when I paint a real severe a flower that I really want you to come, that I really want it to be kind of flat, is I'll put the petals out like this, and then instead of putting smaller little petals pointing this way, I'll pull petals across this way at little angles. Okay, I'll pull them across, and across. So you see just the chisel edge of the flower this time. Now it looks like these are just, you're seeing the edge. So I'm actually going to stroke across this way, and I'm going to pull down this way. Okay, so my brush is going to pull down like that, and my brush is going to pull across like this to set this little chisel edge this way, and then that makes that flower look more like an edge as opposed to being a little bit flat. So it's here you can see what happens is, so here's a flat that's changed, and then I shrink down that a little bit more. I put in its center here, and then I follow this along this way, and then if I chisel this way, I get a flower that's even more flat. So here I'm turning the flower completely flat here, this way and this way. Okay, so it's going doom, 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 this way. Okay, now why is that important? Well, because as an artist, when you're going to get in your first designs, it's okay. You can just do them all around circles. That's because you're learning. Okay, but one of the things, as you become more proficient at painting flowers, an artist gets interest through variation, and you're going to hear that through your entire painting career, or if you've been painting for a while, you've heard me say that in so many of my DVDs. An artist gets interest through variation. And so when I first started, I did lots of books and lots of DVDs and everything on just around flowers, and that was fine. But then I started learning, okay, artists through variation. You need to vary how these flowers twist and turn within the compositions to give them more interest, okay? And so you do that by basically altering the circle. Everything's a circle. When we go over to the rose book, you're going to see me draw roses in circles. That's the 3 circles. And Then we're going to vary those circles, whether we want to open them up or whether we want to close them down, how we stroke within that particular circle, okay? When we're doing multi-petal flowers, so to start out with our flowers going to be like this. Multi-petal flowers, let's just kind of an oval here. We put our center in. Now, one of the things that you can control here too with the center is the center can make a flower come up or it can make a flower go down. If I wanted the flower to come up more, then what I do is I drop the center, not exactly in center. If I drop the center down here like this, okay, what happens is these petals go up like that. Okay, and then these come down like this, and so you get the flower setting down. See how it's lifting up, and these are coming at you more. And then with multi-petal flowers, you go out at least that next third. So if this is a third out and a third out, then at least that next third comes your next layer of petals that will sit inside of that one there. So if you're doing, you could start out with everything. Comes in sets and gets bigger and bigger, and you can get smaller and smaller here, and soon you'll be able to draw flowers without that set of circles because you'll be able to visualize them. But that center, I want you to watch the position of the center. So if I drop the center down, the flowers, the petals in the back can go up. It's pushing and raising them up. And again, that's variation. If I take that center here, if I have this oval, and so I push it down, the flowers go up. If I push it up here, and then I put the petals on like this, what happens here is these petals in the front now droop down. So now by changing the center here, instead of coming down here, I raise this center up into it, then these petals drop down, these petals and these petals come up like this. So the flower droops down. So you can make a drooping flower right here next to a flower that, just opens up a little bit higher here like this. And you'll have different variation or different looks to your two flowers within your composition. And so one of the things that we do in all of our painting, and you don't need to remember all of this, I just want you to be aware of it. I want you to be aware in your mind. It's not just pull the petals here into this. It's like, okay, where are longer petals and shorter petals? Where's the center? And am I painting it more as an oval or am I painting it more as a circle? And for all of your first, if you've never painted before, we're starting everything out as circles, and then we'll slowly bring in some ovals a little bit later on, okay? Let's get into some painting.